My coworker printed my face on a bizarre birthday cake and posted it online with a caption saying he wanted to sleep with me. No asking, no permission, no warning. I just happened to stumble across a video of myself being shared publicly, mixed in with cartoon edits and drunken laughter from a bunch of guys at the office party. Sounds like some dumb joke, right? But when you're the only real person on that hear me out cake, and your coworker is publicly sexualizing you in front of hundreds of people, it stops being funny real quick. The question is, should I stay quiet and let it slide, or speak up, even if it means the whole workplace might turn against me? When I saw that video, my heart sank. It was just a simple reel, some guys laughing around a birthday cake. At first, I didn't think much of it. Hear me out cake. I'd seen that trend online before, where people print bizarre or goofy cartoon characters on cakes as a joke. The idea was usually, I know this is weird, but hear me out. It was meant to be funny, harmless, about having a crush on someone absurd, like the bee from Bee Movie or a villain from some old TV show. But this video was different. It went beyond silly and absurd. When the cake slowly turned that final half rotation, I froze. There was my face, my actual face, printed right on the cake, taken straight from a personal photo on my Instagram. Not a fictional character, not a celebrity. Me. Beneath the photo, the caption read, "She's actually gorgeous. Wish I had a chance to try her just once." I felt a chill run down my spine. This wasn't a harmless joke anymore. It was a public, sexualized statement posted on social media using my image by someone I had only ever considered a coworker, someone even younger than me, barely a college freshman. His name is John. He busses tables at the restaurant where I work. We've had a few casual chats, mostly about school. I'm a senior, close to finishing my degree. He just started college. We'd talk during cleanup, nothing more. I used to think John was kind of sweet, quiet, maybe a little shy. But that video showed me something else entirely. My first feelings were disgust, violation, and fear. I had never given anyone permission to use my image like that. It was a clear violation of personal boundaries. Worse, he didn't even seem to think it was wrong. He took my photo from social media without consent, turned me into a joke, and shared it with friends and coworkers. And I knew. It wasn't just for fun. I told my sister, hoping for support and understanding, but her reaction stunned me. "You should feel flattered someone thinks you're pretty," she said. I swallowed my anger. How am I supposed to take being publicly sexualized as a compliment? How am I expected to be grateful for being turned into someone's entertainment, mocked, objectified, and still expected to smile to meet society's standards? That's when I realized I was standing at the intersection of two worlds. One shaped by family beliefs, where women are taught to stay quiet and accept teasing as praise. The other, my own voice, was screaming that this wasn't okay, that this was not a joke. I knew I had to take action. But how? Should I confront him and ask him to take it down? Would that make me seem dramatic? Should I report it to a manager? Would I be seen as stirring up trouble? Or should I just swallow my anger, stay pleasant, understanding, and pretend it never happened? I've stayed silent for too long. This time I won't. After the initial shock, I thought I'd know what to do. Obviously, I had the right to ask John to take down the video, right? I never gave him permission to use my image, but when it came time to actually do something, confront him by text or report it to our manager, I hesitated. Part of me was still afraid of being seen as too sensitive, of making a big deal out of nothing. But another part of me wanted to scream, if I don't speak up now, how much worse will it get next time? So I decided to look for advice. What hurt the most was realizing that, even among the people I loved, some were standing on the wrong side of the line. My sister, who had always been my emotional support, dismissed the situation as just silly flirting. "He probably just thinks you're pretty. You should be flattered," she said over the phone, her voice both gentle and vaguely annoyed, like I was bothering her with something trivial. I don't entirely blame her. Maybe she grew up in an environment where male attention was the ultimate currency, where being called sexy meant you had value. But it was that very sentence that made me see more clearly the toxic scripts I'd been fed my whole life. Be nice. Don't make waves. Any attention is good attention. No, not all attention is validation. Some stares are traps. I started doubting myself. I asked, am I overreacting? Maybe I'm just being uptight, turning a harmless joke into something it's not. Then I came across a comment from a stranger online that hit me like lightning. Using your coworker's real face, someone you work with every day, in a joke with sexual overtones is borderline disrespectful and harassment. He knew you'd see the video. Maybe it was just a really bad way of trying to flirt. That woke me up. I started realizing that my silence wasn't strength. It was the result of years of emotional training. I'd been taught to be understanding, polite, to let the small stuff go, to keep the peace. But this time, I didn't want peace. I wanted self-respect. Still, a quiet fear lingered. If I speak up, will anyone stand with me? Or will I become the problem in the room? I thought back to the days at work, to the laughter echoing from the back kitchen, where John and the other busboys would hang out. The side glances, the offhand jokes. I'd never been the center of attention. But now, after that video, I was a punchline, a talking point. I felt like my body had been put on display, without my permission, without my voice. Eventually, I realized that what I truly needed wasn't anyone else's approval. I needed my own. I had to tell myself, your feelings are real. You have the right to be upset. You have the right to say, enough. And once I let myself believe in my own intuition, things started to get clearer. I decided I would message John. But I also knew this wasn't just a personal issue between him and me. It was about the work environment, about respect, about digital boundaries. I needed a third party, someone I could trust, someone with authority. And I knew I had to talk to my manager, even if my hands were still shaking. After days of internal struggle, I knew it was time to act. There was no more doubt in my mind. This wasn't a joke. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a violation, one that crossed the line, invading not only my privacy, but also my sense of mental safety at work. I started by gathering evidence. I screen recorded the video John had posted on Instagram. Every frame was clear. The cake, my face printed on it like a decoration, the laughter, and his slurred comment. She's so pretty, but I probably don't stand a chance. I saved the recording and brought it to my shift manager. She's someone I trust. She's always been fair and kind to her staff. When I explained what had happened, my voice trembled, but I made sure not to cry. I didn't want to be seen as weak. I wanted to be seen as reasonable. She was silent for a few seconds after watching the video, then sighed. This is really inappropriate. It could be a violation of the code of conduct. Don't worry, I'll handle it. She didn't need much more explanation. She immediately rearranged the schedule to separate me from John and said she'd talk to HR if necessary. Still, I knew I needed to say something to John myself, to make sure he understood how serious this was, and that I wasn't going to stay silent or let this be treated like some joke. I typed a message, no sugarcoating. The video you made, the one with my face on the hear me out cake, was extremely inappropriate and unprofessional. We're coworkers. I never gave you permission to use my image, especially in a sexualized context like that. I've spoken to manager. I'm asking you to delete the video. Using someone's image without consent, especially in this way, is unacceptable. The message wasn't long, not aggressive, but it made one thing crystal clear. I wasn't overreacting. I was drawing a line. About an hour later, John replied, sorry if that made you uncomfortable. We were kind of drunk that night, just joking around. I thought you were chill, that you'd think it was funny, but if you didn't like it, I'll delete it. There was no real apology, no admission that what he did was wrong. Just excuses, blaming the alcohol, the joke, the assumption that I'd be amused. I read the message several times, and then I understood. He didn't actually get it. He just knew he'd been caught. The video disappeared from Instagram later that day. No follow-up message, no eye contact at work. Just a cold, awkward silence. I heard John was required to take a mandatory training on harassment and inappropriate workplace behavior. A kind of soft warning, probably just an annoyance to him. But at least it was a reminder, this is not something you just brush off. I started getting different looks from his group of friends, young busboys who had only recently started working there. They didn't say anything, but the way they glanced at me, like I was a troublemaker, made it clear Sometimes standing up for yourself means being set apart from the group. But I have no regrets. I'd rather be looked at with discomfort than live with the feeling of being someone's joke, someone's cake decoration, without the right to speak up. After the video was taken down and my message was sent, I thought things would feel lighter. I thought I'd feel at peace, maybe even proud, for standing up for myself. And in some ways, I did. But the truth is, not everything went back to normal. At least, not right away. The atmosphere at work started to shift. The casual nods and friendly glances from John's group of friends turned into side eyes and loaded looks, like I had broken some unspoken code among the younger staff. No one said anything outright. No one dared make jokes to my face. But I could feel the discomfort. Silent, sticky, every time I walked past the kitchen or stepped into the break room. I wasn't afraid of them. I was just sad. Sad that calling out something clearly wrong made me the one who got isolated. Sad that instead of being ashamed of their friend's behavior, they looked at me like I was the one who made a big deal, who ruined the vibe. To them, I was no longer the friendly coworker. I had become the one who can't take a joke, who's too sensitive. I told a friend from college about what happened, a woman much stronger and sharper than I've ever been. She said, "They're uncomfortable because you're a reminder that they could be called out too if they ever crossed a line. Don't let their discomfort make you question yourself." And when I heard that, I nearly cried. Because the truth is, I had started to question myself. I used to be the quiet one, the easygoing one, always trying to make sure no one disliked me. But after all this, I realized something. Being liked by everyone is not worth more than being respected by yourself. So, I started changing how I responded. I stopped forcing a smile when someone said something inappropriate. I stopped staying silent when I felt someone was testing a boundary. I learned to say no, clearly, directly, without apologizing for how I felt. I stopped sitting in the staff lounge where the busboy crew usually hung out. Instead, I brought a book and chose to sit alone during breaks, not because I was isolating myself, but because I needed space to heal. A few of the other women at work seemed to understand what had happened. They started talking to me more. No one said anything specific, but simple questions like, "How's your shift been lately?" with eyes that truly meant it, told me I wasn't completely alone. As for John, he avoided me entirely. No eye contact, no small talk, no more half-hearted apologies. Maybe he was ashamed. Or maybe he was just waiting for things to blow over so he could act like nothing happened. Either way, I didn't need an apology anymore. What I needed, I already had, a clear boundary. I can't control how others act, but I can control how I respond. And I chose to respond with clarity, with quiet action. Not dramatic, not destructive, but strong enough for him and anyone else to understand. I'm not a character in their jokes. I'm no longer the girl who just blushes and smiles when she's made the subject of a story. I'm the woman who stood up, and that, to me, is a new beginning. When everything finally quieted down, no more messages, no more watchful stares like before, and my work shifts had returned to a steady rhythm, I began to look back at this experience not with the raw pain it once brought, but through the lens of growth. What seemed like a small incident at the time turned out to be a test of my personal limits and inner values. It reminded me of something important. Self-respect isn't something others give you. It's something you have to protect for yourself, even when that means disappointing others. I used to believe that being kind, easygoing, and agreeable were traits worth preserving in a workplace. But if those qualities mean I have to tolerate being disrespected, being belittled, or becoming the butt of some guy's joke, then no, I refuse. I would rather be called too sensitive than live as if my feelings don't matter. I couldn't change John, nor could I control how his friends reacted. But I did what was right for me, and that made me stronger than I've ever been. I no longer try to keep the peace by staying silent. I've started speaking more clearly with both coworkers and friends. I'm no longer afraid to set boundaries. A friend asked me later, "If you could do it over, would you still speak up?" I didn't hesitate. Yes, and I'd do it sooner. I wish I had learned earlier that no is a complete sentence. You don't have to apologize for saying it. You don't need to justify why you felt hurt. If something feels violating, That alone is enough to speak up, enough to act. This story isn't just about a stupid video or an immature guy. It's about how society, whether by accident or by design, has normalized mild harassment, hiding it behind the masks of jokes or compliments. It's about how women are expected to stay quiet, to stay soft, to feel flattered by unwanted attention. But no, I wasn't born to be someone's background for attention. I was born to live a life with a voice, with boundaries, and with the power to say no when I feel unsafe. I'm sharing this story not to shame anyone, but to let anyone who's been in a similar situation know you are not alone, and you do not have to put up with it just to keep the peace. Sometimes peace bought with silence is the fastest way to erode your self-worth. And if someone reading this has ever been the punchline of a joke, ever been sexualized by a coworker, ever been hurt while everyone else looked away, then let me say this to you. You have the right to be angry, the right to be sad, the right to say no, and the right to love yourself so fiercely that you won't let anyone harm you a second time. I am not a victim. I am a survivor. I am someone walking forward with a sharper lesson in hand. When you learn to say enough, the world is forced to learn how to respect you.